Can Dündar is a Turkish journalist, columnist, and documentarian. Dündar has written for numerous newspapers, including Hürriyet, Sabah, Milliyet, Nokta, and Tempo. He has produced TV programs for various TV channels, including TRT, CNN Türk, and NTV, and published more than 20 books. He has produced over 10 documentaries on a range of topics. Can Dündar holds a PhD in political science from Middle East Technical University. Throughout his career, he has awards and honors, including the Prize for the Freedom and Future of the Media from the Leipzig Media Foundation, CPJ International Press Freedom Awards, Oxfam Novit Pen Award, and Best European Journals of the Year, Prix Europa. Can Dündar was editor-in-chief of Cumhuriyet newspaper until August 2016. Since June 2016, Dündar has been living and working in Germany, and he is editor-in-chief of web radio, Özgürüz, and he publishes a column in the site. This is just a glimpse into your long and stellar career. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. Mr. Dündar, you're a Turkish journalist, now living and working in Germany. What made you come to Germany in 2016, and why did you choose Germany specifically?
Well, why I am here, thanks to Erdogan, let's say. Um, because of the repression over Turkish media in general. But specifically, I was convicted 5 years and 10 months of imprisonment in Turkey, and we applied to the higher court. And I was expecting the decision of the higher court when I came to Germany. But coincidentally, in 2016, I was in holiday in Spain, that this military intervention attempt has happened, and the rule of law was completely lifted. And there was no trust anymore to the judges, especially high judges. So I was planning to go back to my country at the end of this holiday, but I was warned by my lawyers and family members that if I go back, I would be in jail. So I had already spent 3 months in jail, and I didn't want to go back to prison again. And I decided that they said, you'd better to stay for a while. But then we saw that, unfortunately, without rule of law, it's impossible for a journalist to, work freely. Then I decided to stay in Germany.
How would you describe conditions for journalists in Turkey today? This is not the first time Turkish and Kurdish intellectuals and others have had to leave the country for political reasons. Can you compare conditions today with the history of exile?
Yeah, we can say that it's a sad tradition of Turkish and Kurdish journalists and intellectuals to be in a position to leave the country for political reasons. So it was the same in 1970s, it was the same in 1980s, and unfortunately the history has been repeating itself. Why is that? Because, the governments, especially the military governments in our history, they didn't like people telling the truth. And they love to run the country by using lies. And anyone who dares to say the truth is a kind of criminal in the eyes of the governments. And more or less the whole story of Turkish last 100 years of the century-old Turkish Republic's history is full of military interventions. And these interruptions of democratic regime caused many people, they had to leave the country. So it's not something new, but this time it was more powerful. The wind, the repression is more heavy. That's why there are a lot of people who had to come to to different countries in Europe.
Many people today are vulnerable to attack from the Turkish government. Could you tell us something about your background and about the specific dangers you faced in Turkey? What do you think made you personally the target of the attack?
Yeah, as you said, I'm one of them. I mean, I'm not the only case, and there are hundreds of people like me, and Turkey has been the biggest jail for journalists in the world, with, I guess, around 100 journalists in the country now in jail. So that makes journalism a very dangerous job for Turkish and Kurdish journalists, especially Kurdish journalists. For me, I've been working as a journalist for more than 40 years now, and I witnessed several military governments. I was censored. Um, yeah, I had many bad experiences in my whole professional life. But to be honest, this last 5 years has been the darkest period of time in my political and professional history. Uh, and I guess it's the same for the country. What happened is, first, the government, Erdogan government, was clever enough um, to push the businessman close to himself to buy some media outlets, and then there was no need for censorship anymore because they were censoring themselves. And the first thing those businessmen has done was to fire people uh, with the opposing ideas. So I was one of them. I was fired from my paper, which I had been writing for 20 years. So all of a sudden I found myself fired, and there was nowhere to go for a journalist with opposing ideas. This is one thing. And the other thing is, in this way, he managed to manipulate more than 80% of the media. And for the rest, journalism has become a very dangerous job. And people start spending quite a long time in jails or in the courtrooms. So my last mission was, I was the editor-in-chief of a Turkish daily called Cumhuriyet, and the oldest paper in Turkey and one of the most prestigious. So we published a story about Turkish intelligence service trafficking illegally arms to Syria. And for this true story, they asked 2 life sentences for me, which was equal to death sentence. Once, so after this, I was jailed for 3 months, and Erdogan said, "This guy, the journalist who made this story, would not. I will follow him till the end of it, etc." So I was, and I survived from a gun attack in front of the courthouse. So it was not only my freedom, but also my life was in danger. So this is the conditions I faced with. So the decision is, should I live my rest of my life in jail, or even killed in staying in Turkey, or should I leave the country? To be honest, I was not intending to leave the country, but as I told you, the conditions forced me to stay in Germany. Since then, I've been living in exile.
The decision to leave Turkey must have been a very difficult one. How would you describe the challenges of living and the journey you were forced to undertake?
Of course, it's not an easy decision because you are leaving not only your country, but your family, your job, your loved ones, your library, your paper, your television station, whatever you've been doing. Uh, and of course, culturally, in that age, it's kind of difficult to leave everything behind and start a new life abroad. Um, but at the same time, it's challenge. It's a challenge, and uh, um, I enjoyed this challenge because I mean it's a test for everyone. You know, if you can start everything from the beginning again. It's not only a new house, new driving license, new identity, but also you have to prove yourself in a different language, different country, different environment. And I tried to take it as an advantage to cope with it. And it worked, you know, because I mean, if you're a writer, um, your country is wherever you write freely. If you are not allowed to write freely in your own country, then the best country for you is where you can write freely. So at the moment, it's Germany for me. Maybe it will be Turkey again.
Your family was also impacted by your decision to publish information about Turkey providing weapons to ISIS in Syria. Information that led you to being convicted of revealing state secrets. Where is your family now? Would you describe them as being subject to a form of collective punishment?
This is something new, to be honest, because I mean, even the military government were so harsh against the journalists. I knew it. But the families were not involved in the years under military rule, and this is the first time we are witnessing something, as you called, collective punishment. So when I decided to stay in Germany, I asked my wife to come and join me here. And at the airport, she was stopped and her passport were taken and confiscated. Um, Without any reason. There was no investigation against her. There was no accusation about her, just for being my wife. And that's why she has become part of the punishment. And also it was something that punishing me and our son, etc. That's why it was hard, and we waited for 3.5 years for the court to decide on her passport. And as I told you, I mean, without rule of law, you can't trust the judges anymore. And we tried every way, including diplomacy, political ways, legal ways. Didn't work. So in the end, she had to escape from her own country. And last year, we finally she came to Germany, but this time she can't go back, you know, again. So this collective punishment is totally illegal, unethical, but it's part of the government's ways of manipulating people.
May I ask about your current legal status in Germany? In previous interviews, you referred to yourself as being in exile. How would you distinguish between being a refugee, an exile, and an immigrant?
I'm not so. To be honest, I don't know too much about the differences between those concepts, but I feel like an exile here because I'm away from the country for political reasons, and it was not my decision or intention to come here. I was forced to be here, and this country offers working conditions here for me, but different than the conditions they offered to Turkish immigrants, for example, during 60s. The difference is I'm here not for economic reasons, but for political reasons. But still, of course, I'm working as a freelance journalist here. I've been running a radio station, and I'm working for also German media like WDR or Die Zeit. In the beginning, I was supported by PEN Germany and RSF Germany. So it's more than a country's help, but more professional solidarity, let's say. That's why Germany is one of the countries who knows what exile means from its own history. So they are more welcoming to those kind of people who are forced to leave the country for political reasons.
Asylum and refugee law is often criticized as being either too lenient or not lenient enough. What are your views on this? Do you think the law offers sufficient protection to refugees and political asylees?
I'm not so, I don't have enough knowledge about this, but I can say that I know the pressure by the Turkish government or German government to handle those political refugees to Turkey, especially some Gülenists and what they call some terrorists, journalists and political asylum seekers. But I know that Germany, knowing that there's no rule of law anymore in Turkey, and they resist so far to give them back. So that's important. And they are trying to offer some help to those people. They can do more, but for the moment, as far as I can see, they are handling the issue very well.
How do you see your role as a Turkish journalist living in Germany? Who is your principal audience, do you think?
Mostly, of course, we are trying to reach our viewers, our readers in Turkey. Because, I mean, we have a word to say, and I know that many people are ready to get those, ready to get the truth, which is banned kind of in Turkey. So we are trying to shout somehow from afar. And there are many people listening. It's a new concept, Exile Radio, which is, of course, I mean, I used to listen, for example, Radio Köln during 80s. They were broadcasting from Germany, and as Turkish media was under censorship, we were listening foreign radios to understand what's going on in our environment. And now, after so many years, I'm in a position to broadcast from outside and people listening. Yeah, it's a vicious circle, whatever. But at the same time, we are trying to reach the Turkish and Kurdish community here in Germany, who I guess most of them are under the impact of pro-government Turkish media, and without knowing anything about the real Turkey, they are living in a dream, thanks to the pink news of the pro-government media in Germany and Turkey. So I guess it's another dimension that we have to care for about broadcasting about Turkey, because we have to tell them that Turkey is not only the country of Erdogan reflecting, but there are a lot of problems and they have to know about this.
In previous interviews, you made a distinction between Turkish German, who came in the 60s and 70s for economic reasons, so called Gastarbeiter or gas worker, and more recent exiles who leave for political reasons. In your view, are there commonalities between these two communities?
I guess we cannot talk about, in general, Turkish or Kurdish asylum seekers here, or guests, let's say more kindly. Turkey is a polarized country, more than ever. And this polarization was reflected exactly in Germany too. So I can't say that. Um, in Turkey, we were not kind of together. We were living in different our circles, and it's the same in Germany now. We are living in different circles, and somehow they see us as foreigners, as Germans, as betrayals, etc. And for many of us, they are the people who were poisoned by the propaganda of Erdogan. And that's why, first of all, we have to solve this problem between us. So there are two Turkeys, let's say at least two, and Germany has representatives of those two Turkeys. And that can be an advantage for us because we are living in a different country together now, and we can talk to each other, we can try to understand each other, we can try to get rid of this wave of hatred coming from Turkey here. But unfortunately, this wave made us kind of enemies here. That's why, of course, there are a lot of differences between those two communities. And the second one, as us, many academics, many journalists, artists starts coming to Germany, escaping from the aggression from Turkey. And this polarization will grow in the meantime, I'm afraid. That's why maybe we can contribute this dialogue via this radio programs or via different programs. And I guess Germany has to do something to prevent this clash between the two. Of course, they can say that this is not our business, but this is their country. And unfortunately, this polarization and this tension makes it difficult to live here, especially for us.
How has the exilic experience changed you personally, professionally, as well as politically? And more specifically, what is the impact of this experience on your views on refugees and exiles living in Germany?
There are positive and negative effects. First, I can talk about the positive effects. It made me more international. I used to write for example, last paper was Cumhuriyet, and I was not able to write anymore in Turkey. Now I'm writing for the Washington Post and Die Zeit. So it made me international all of a sudden without my intention. And I used to make documentaries for Turkish CNN Türk television. Now I'm working for ZDF. I'm producing documentaries for Arte. So professionally, it made me more international and more. It gave me the opportunity to test myself in an international level, which was invaluable for me. All of a sudden, thanks to Erdogan, I found myself in an international environment. This is but I mean, it can work, it cannot work, so it depends on you, it depends on the environment, it depends on your psychology, etc. For me, I was lucky, and I'm really very happy professionally what I've done so far in Germany. But at the same time, in your private life, destroyed. You lost everything you have. You lost your country. You are away from your country. As a writer, imagine I'm away from my library, from my archive as a documentarist. So it means you are all naked. Of course, it's a heavy price to leave your country and starting everything from the beginning again. It's a high price. But as I told you, I'm trying to see it as an advantage, and it's a challenging experience, let's say.
What are your personal plans and hopes for the future, and how do you see the future of Turkey?
I'm always optimistic. But I know history, so I've been reading about experiences of 1980s, 1960s. People came here with big hopes, and they were planning to go back in a couple of years, and they spent 20 years. After 20 years, they are just laughing about my, hopeful feelings, etc. But I'm still. It's, I mean, it depends on us, our struggle. So I'm part of it. So I can't say that, okay, let's wait and see. If you wait, of course, you can't see. So you don't have to wait. You have to fight. So I'm trying to do my best to, to fulfill my responsibilities, which is to give the truth to my audience. That's all. But more than that, I guess nowadays I've been thinking about using this opportunity of being exile and kind of in a free atmosphere. If we can do something for the future of our country, like planning the future from afar, from in exile. I read about a lot about German exiles in Turkey during 30s, and they were, of course, trying to survive. They were working hard, but at the same time, they were planning the Germany's future from the 30s after war era. And I guess that's exactly what we should do now, because there are a lot of academics, there are a lot of brain drain from Turkey now, and those are experienced people. And maybe it's time for us to come together and try to build up a roadmap for the future of Turkey, instead of waiting what would happen to our country. We can contribute to what could happen in our country, and we can build up a new kind of strategy. At least we can come together and talk, which was kind of impossible anymore in Turkey. So I tend to turn this period of time, I don't know how long would it take, into a productive period, not only for myself, but also for my country.
Is there anything else you would like the audience to know about being in exile?
Yeah, empathy. Empathy is so important, especially for our German friends. There's a rising tendency of anti-refugee politics in Germany, as we all witness, which is really dangerous. And just they have to imagine someone, a German professor, had to leave Germany in 34, and they have to think about their conditions in Turkey. They have to think about Stefan Zweig, what they had to live, what kind of conditions they had to live, and why they committed suicide, for example. Then they can understand what we've been living through in their country. So your previous questions, of course, some of us will stay here forever, most probably, but some of us will go back. And when we go back, we will rebuild our country, and hopefully it will be more peaceful country, and it will be good for Germany too. I mean, to have a friendship with Turkey, and for the people who decided to stay here, they will enrich the population here, and they will enrich Germany, I guess. So in both sides, of course, empathy is the most important keyword in this reason.
Thank you so much for your very sincere input and sharing your experience with us today.